Hi guys! So today in PE we're going to go over some fencing drills and kind of different strategies, and we're going to go over the weapons you guys are going to use in class for your fun fencing unit. I'm super excited, so I hope you guys are too. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to start off our fencing unit, I'm going to give you guys quick couple facts. Make sure you're paying attention because these are going to be on your quiz that you're going to have at the end of this. And they're just really fun, and I worked really hard to find these. So, first thing is fencing had its first appearance at the Olympics in 1896 and has been there ever since. So they're one of the oldest sports to be in the Olympics. How cool is that? Alright, next up is fencing is a form of military training that later became a sport in the 14th or 15th century. They're not quite sure, but sometime around there. So that's pretty cool as well. And then our last fun little fact is Germany actually claims to organize the first guided fencing rules and disciplines and all the stuff that you guys are going to learn today in the 15th century. Alright, so to move on, we're going to go over your standards, that we're going to do today. So you guys are going to apply principles of efficient movements, because fencing is a lot of strategy, so we're going to go over that to help your performance in fencing. We're also going to go over some rules and safety procedures for this physical activity that we're going to do. And then lastly is we're going to analyze and apply complex offensive, defensive, and cooperative strategies for fencing. Alright guys, so we're going to go over some quick rules, and then we're going to go ahead on to actually learning how to fence. So a couple typical fencing rules we have are that fencers must salute to one another and the referee at the beginning and end of the bout. So a bout is just what they call their matches against each other. Failure to do so can result in the loss of either a point or even a suspension. And then for points are scored by hitting your opponent in accordance with the specific requirements for the type of weapon being used. So, for instance, each different weapon that we're going to talk about, there's 3. Each weapon has a different target zone, and that's how you guys are going to score points. So we'll have to make sure that based on the weapon that you're using in class determines the target area that you're trying to go for. But we will go over that, so don't worry. And then another one is badgering the opponent using your hands to cover your target zone, or foot faults can lead to a point penalty at the referee's discretion. So this is just kind of similar to other things like soccer or basketball, where there's typical things that you can't do in order for your opponent to not score a point. So simple things like that obviously can't happen. So some other rules I have set for you guys specifically is depending on the discipline or the weapons that we're using. I want you guys to make sure that you guys know your target areas and how to properly aim for those target areas and so forth. When you are using your weapon, obviously you're only using one hand. It'll typically be your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm always going to use my right hand. And then obviously, like I said before, we're going to make sure we salute one another, just so you kind of get that respect for each other and for beginning of the bout. So those are our simple rules that we're going to go over, and now we're going to go ahead and move on. Alright, so quickly, I just want to add some safety precautions just because this is PE class, and we want to make sure that you guys are still enjoying the activity but staying safe. So I just have a couple, but we have to go over them. So first off, when we're practicing, we're only going to hit in the torso area. This is just to make sure that we don't hit each other on their head, we're not whacking each other, nobody gets hit in the eye, has to go to the nurse, because that's not going to be any fun, because then you're not going to be able to participate. So just keep that in mind, only going to hit in the torso area. And then also make sure when you guys are practicing in the gym or at home that you have a clear space, so no couches, no stairs behind me, stuff like that, so you guys won't trip and twist an ankle, break your wrist, stuff like that. But that's all typical stuff that you guys already know from being in class. Is just watching what's around you. And then obviously be courteous of one another and have good sportsmanship. Alright guys, just a few more things and then we're going to go on into the activity part. So the object of fencing is to use your weapon, in this case we're going to use pool noodles, to strike your opponent while avoid being hit yourself. So that's how fencers score points, and that's how we defend our fencers defend ourselves when trying to score a point themselves. Fencing is also played on a pace, which is about 14 meters long. I have an amazing picture for you guys. So it looks a little something like this. So we have our run-off line, our 2-meter warning, then we have a 3-meter, and then this is the on guard line. So this is where the fencers will start, and then we have a halfway marker. So that's kind of what the playing field for fencing looks like. And then we have our stance, our right-of-way, and then some of our basic fencing techniques, which I will get into in the next part of this video. Alright guys, so to go over this stance, so as you can see, I am right-handed, so my weapon's going to be in my right hand. That means that my right foot is going to be out in front of me, pointed forward, and then my back foot is going to be pointed outward at 90 degrees, with the inside of my body. So as this picture kind of moves down, you'll be able to see my feet. So we want to remember that when we come back into our stance position, kind of the ready position for when we go ahead and are ready to attack our opponent, we want to make sure that our dominant foot and our weapon hand are the same, and then our back foot is pointed outward at 90 degrees. Front foot forward, back foot outward. Alright, so these are the 3 weapons we're going to be using. As you can see, they're different size pool noodles for you guys. I have labeled each of them on the screen to tell you the difference. So we're going to start out with the foil. This is the shorter one. It's one of the most common and most technical forms of weapons. The target area for this is anywhere in the torso, and the attack is with the tip of the blade in the back of the torso or the back, and right-of-way does occur with this discipline. The next one is the sabre. This one is the fastest of the weapons. The target area is anywhere above the waist, and you can attack with the tip or the side of the weapon, and right-of-way does count with this one as well. And then our last discipline is the epee. This is the largest of the 3 weapons. It is the slowest of the 3 as well, and the target area is the entire body. You do attack with the tip of this, and there is no right-of-way with this weapon. Okay, so one thing that I had mentioned before with each of the weapons that we talked about was something called right-of-way. So I'm going to explain that to you guys now so that when we go and do our activity, you will understand how to apply it to your games. So the right-of-way is pretty much when an opponent attacks first. There's different rules that go along with it. So there's the first one is fall short, which you make your opponent miss you, and then you attack them to score the point. Then there's the parry and the riposte, which we'll talk about later, which is pretty much deflecting opponent's attack and then counterattacking to score a point. And then we also have beat, which is knocking an opponent's blade away with your blade, or in this case our pool noodles, and then you are attacking to score a point. Alright, so for the foil, the target area is anywhere on the torso. This means you can also hit anywhere on the back. For our next one, which is the sabre, the target area is anywhere above the waist, so it can be the torso, the arms, or even the back. And then the last one, which is the epee, the target is anywhere on the entire body. So legs, torso, arms, and back. Yes. I have also inserted a better picture for you guys of each of the target areas. So we have the foil, the epee, and the sabre. This is just to help you guys kind of understand the target areas better if you couldn't really tell in the last video. Okay, so besides the lunge, there are 2 other movements that fencing players typically do to either distract their opponent or fight off their opponent's attack, and then go ahead and attack their opponent to try and get a point. So the first one obviously was the lunge, which you already went over, but then the second one is called a parry, which is a defensive action where a fencer blocks the opponent's lunge. So with this, you're going to take your pool noodle and you're going to kind of move it against your opponent's pool noodle too. So you'll see that in the next video. And then a riposte, is a counterattack by a fencer who has blocked the opponent with a parry. So this one is kind of like a combination of both a lunge and a parry, and then you have an attack. So your opponent's going to come at you with their pool noodle. You'll swipe the pool noodle out of the way with your own, and then you'll go ahead and try and tag your opponent in the torso to score a point. And those are the other two movements in fencing other than the lunge. Alright, so here we are going to do a parry movement. So my partner is going to attack me with their pool noodle, and I am going to move their pool noodle out of the way with my own. And then the next one they're about to show is the riposte, which is then I attack my opponent. Alright guys, so before I showed you the lunge, I just want to kind of talk you through it before you watch it, and then we'll watch it and then I'll talk you through it again. So with the lunge, it's how fencers move forward to make an attack movement. So you're going to kick with your forward foot, so that would be your right foot if your weapon is in your right hand, left foot if your weapon is in your left hand, and you're going to use your back leg to push you forward. So now you're going to watch a video of me doing it, and then I'll go ahead and explain it again.
When you're ready.
Kick forward with front foot, push body forward with back leg. Alright, so after you guys have finished your activity, I have a rubric that I'm going to be scoring you guys on, and I have it right here. So this is what it's going to look like. We're going to do rules, strategy, and tactics. I believe that says sportsmanship. And then on the back we have some safety precautions. So this is what it looks like, just to give you guys a heads up. We also have our standards up here for you guys. So that's that. And then we are also taking a quiz. Don't mind this. I know it says exam, but it's just a short quiz. And it's going to look like this. I believe it is 12 questions. Super easy as long as you follow this and remember all the information. Here's a closer look at the skills rubric students will be graded on during their fencing unit. And this is a close-up of the quiz students will be taking on their fencing unit. Alright guys, so I hope you really enjoyed this lesson on fencing. Later in the week we're going to work on some more activities and drills and stuff, but this is kind of just some basic skills of how fencing kind of works and a little bit of background information. So I'm super excited to see you guys soon, and I hope you guys are ready to fence.